Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Welcome to another episode of Missing Frames. This is the podcast where we watch all the movies we should have seen by this point in our lives. I'm your host, Shawn Eastridge, very excited to have John Mills returning to the show.
Woohoo!
And
Thank you.
also, first time ever, Matt Hansen.
I'm so excited to be here. I'm surprised, given the movie buff that I am. I haven't tried to get on before, but given the subject matter of this Missing Frames, there was no way I was going to be on.
I was going to say, we finally had something to pull you in, and we are going to be doing something very interesting. We are going to be watching, two Halloween movies. We're going to be watching the Halloween sequel. This is the 2018 sequel coming out this October. And I'm also going to be watching Halloween 2. And obviously no one's seen the 2018 movie. That would be crazy. But I've never seen Halloween 2. And John's always on because it's a sequel. We've got to have him on. But Matt and John are in the Nerd Party, and personally in my life, the biggest Halloween fans I know. So I think John came up with a really fun angle for this show. And John, why don't you tell the good people at home what we're going to be doing?
Oh, absolutely. Okay, this is us having a multi-show network focus for Halloween. As Shawn mentioned, both Matt and I are huge Halloween fans. And as a part of this series, sharing airtime between shows, we're going to really get in there and drill into it. And having Shawn along for the ride is going to, I think, provide a very important perspective for everybody, so that it's not just two longtime fans gushing about something, but it's a fresh perspective, because we all know, as Shawn and I had Shar on to talk about The Empire Strikes Back for the first time, you get a completely different perspective from somebody who hasn't seen it before. And that can be a lot of fun. And so this is a celebration of the series that wouldn't die, but has somehow amazingly retained the tremendous respect of its fans without going all Freddy Krueger or Jason Voorhees with it.
That's very true. And I was like, I've never seen Halloween 2. Why don't I watch that? Because I've always been meaning to watch it. And John, you were like, I'll one up you. Let's do something better. How about you go see, because the 2018 Halloween movie is intended to be a direct sequel to the original Halloween. All the sequels are gone. They've been retconned. It's basically this. They're basically saying this is the first sequel. So because I've never seen a single Halloween sequel, at least not all the way through, I'm going to be watching the 2018 Halloween movie first. Having only seen the very first Halloween, I may be the only person on the internet, or maybe you don't really know me, person, whoever you are listening, but this may be the single episode of podcasting in the history of internets that features me being someone who's only seeing this as a sequel to the first Halloween, which I thought was a great idea.
And I think that, Matt, you would agree that we're being very merciful and not making him watch the other Halloween 2 in the series, but only the one that was directed by...
I was gonna mention, like, we're clarifying, you're watching Halloween 2 from 1981, not Rob Zombie's Halloween 2.
I did. I suggested to John, I was like, let's just make it a series of 2s, and John said no. No, Sean, I'm not going to do that.
John and I actually want you to like this series. So.
Yes.
I appreciate it. So I'm going to be watching. When October rolls around, I typically bring out the original Halloween and watch that, because it's one of my favorites to watch around that time. And then I'll be going into the new one, and then going back to watch Halloween 2 and kind of comparing and contrasting.
So. Just as a question, Shawn, because this is Missing Frames, and you love to ask this question of people who haven't seen it, the movie that's coming up, what sort of expectation do you have? Like, when you come out of the original Halloween as somebody who's never seen the follow-up, what is your expectation? What do you go into it with?
Oh boy, I honestly don't know. Halloween, a lot of times I think, and the Nightmare on Elm Street movies are the exception to this rule, but especially with like horror movies, and Halloween seemed to follow this pattern, but the case of diminishing returns in some instances very diminishing. I always got the feel that not a lot of people really enjoyed the sequels. Like, with the exception of Halloween 2, the 1981 Halloween 2, everyone's kind of like, you can really just leave the rest. So I was always kind of like, you know what? I'm not even going to bother. I'm going to just have the original one in mind and just keep it as that, because I really love the first Halloween, and I wanted it to stay kind of untainted in that way. I wanted it to be that special, lone movie and not have anything ruining my image of that. So when this new one, they started talking about it, and then they revealed that it's going to be a sequel to the first Halloween, I was kind of like, all right, okay, cool. And I honestly don't know what I would have expected until I saw the trailer and they were really hammering home the Laurie angle of it, how she's kind of gone a little nutty and has been preparing her whole, like, these past 40 years or so.
She's gone full on Sarah Connor.
Exactly.
From T2, which I fully support, by the way.
Yeah, I thought that was such a cool angle. So I think that, to me, it's like you pitched me like, oh yeah, we're going to do a sequel to the original Halloween, like none of the others happened. And I'm like, okay. And then you say Laurie's going to be like crazy Sarah Connor. I'm like, oh, all right. Well, that sounds awesome. So that's the angle that is really interesting to me, and clearly was enough to bring Jamie Lee Curtis back.
Although she did come back once before to debatable results, but
I was going to say we'll get to it in our future discussions. I throw in H2O there as one of the better quality sequels. But
so she was in Halloween 2. She was also in H2O and Resurrection.
Wow.
Yeah.
We tried to forget about Resurrection.
How can one forget Resurrection, really, though?
I'm glad in an episode where I don't have to watch any of them, I found a way to bring that one up.
Now, I have a question, Matt. Like, given everything that Shawn has said, do you think it's fair of us to let him go in with no is there any expectation we should set for him about the 1981 Halloween 2? Is there anything you think that needs to be said?
As far as expectations for the 81 film, no, not really. I mean, what I like about it, and of course, Shawn, you'll form your own opinion, but Halloween 2 is kind of interesting is in that, and this is not a spoiler because the beginning of the movie will tell you this, it is a direct sequel to the first one.
I know enough about Halloween 2. I don't want to spoil the audience who probably has seen it. Can I just go ahead and spoil what I know about Halloween 2?
It came out in 81.
Sure.
I think we're past the statute of
let's
limitations
do it.
on spoilers.
So I know it literally picks up right where the first one left off.
About
to the point
2
where
seconds later.
Don't they like pull like a Rocky 2 and have it start with a recap of the ending of the first one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I know that. And I also know that Laurie's his sister.
Yeah, that's okay. I didn't want to spoil that in case you didn't know it, but I would say that is the biggest thing about Halloween 2, the original, is that, and was really interesting, I'm sure to you, John, when we heard that this new Halloween is ignoring all the sequels, because that is the big contribution that 2 made to the series, and that affected all the sequels going forward. Is once they introduced the Michael Myers and Laurie Strode brother-sister dynamic, the series turned into this story of Michael Myers hunting down every last member of his family.
Right, and I want to know, just based, so to flip the question on you guys, how do you feel about that? As fans of the franchise, and we've already established that you realize that some of these movies are not as good as others, but like, were you at all kind of turned off by that? Did you kind of feel like, oh, but I liked that angle, the brother-sister angle, and the fact that he's going after family members? Did that bother you at all, or are you just ready for something fresh and new after all these years?
I think, John, you can speak up if you disagree, but given the other 8 films in the franchise, I think the family thing has run its course. I mean,
yes.
It's weird it took some getting used to once the news came out, because it's just so ingrained in my psyche. as a longtime Halloween fan, that Laurie Strode is Michael Myers' sister. So to kind of separate that again and have her just be a random person was kind of not hard in the sense that like, oh, this is precious and I must hang on to what came before, but it's like, oh, this is like so weird. We're like starting over again, as if that sequel that I've been watching for the last 15 years of my life never happened. So, I mean, it didn't bother me in the sense that they're changing the mythology. It just took me a minute. I was like, wow, I really have to kind of get used to the fact that she's not his sister anymore. But that being said, I feel like the sister storyline had a payoff and a play out in H2O, and that should have been the end of that, but of course they had to go make Resurrection. So if I want to see the storyline of Laurie Strode being his sister, I'll watch 1, 2, and H2O. If I just don't care and this new movie's great, I'll just watch 1 and then this new film.
Yeah, I'm totally along with you, Matt, where it does take a lot to get used to. And I do have a friend who's been on Missing Frames talking about Twin Peaks, Joey. He's not necessarily a fan, I think, of ditching the sister thing. He's actually not happy that they recast Laurie's daughter, essentially, in terms of Judy Greer coming in and playing her, because she was played by a different actress in a different set of circumstances.
Okay.
And he wanted that actress brought back, and that's a bone of contention for. I know for him, I have to imagine I can extrapolate that out anecdotally to mean that there are fans who wish that they therefore found some way to keep it somewhat intact. I think that, and I'm steering as clear away from spoiler territory as I can since you haven't seen Halloween 2. I personally think they're in a bind where there's no way they could make a true sequel at this point. I mean, it'll make sense. We'll save it for after you've seen Halloween 2, the next statement I was going to say. But what I will say is that the darn shame of it for me is I kind of am in love with the television cut of the original Halloween.
Really?
I am, even though I know the scene of him talking to the board is you can practically sense somebody behind the camera going, stretch it out, stretch it out.
The TV cut of Halloween 2 where he's talking to the board?
Oh, no, the TV cut of the first Halloween.
Oh, yeah, you said Halloween 2, and I'm like, you're
Oh,
a fan
no,
of that.
no,
No,
no.
he said the
No.
first Halloween, because I was like, there's a TV cut of the first Halloween? I
My
was thinking
bad,
Halloween
my bad.
2.
I actually am a fan of that. Never mind.
Well, no, they went. What they did, Sean, with the TV cut of Halloween is, of course, TV standards being what they are, and even though the original Halloween, especially in retrospect, like I don't even see it getting an R nowadays because I look at it and I'm
PG-13.
like, yeah, what? In order to make it airable on television, they had to cut some stuff, and that made the running time lower. And they're here, and they're saying, oh, well, you know what? We're making Halloween 2, and we came up with this whole sister angle. And so they went back and they they shot some stuff with Donald Pleasance and with Jamie Lee Curtis to insert. And so you actually see Loomis talking to the board. Yes, they did. It's a special edition, essentially.
Okay.
And you see Michael's room, which he has destroyed on the way out, and scrawled sister on the back of the door.
Oh, interesting.
And so basically they took the opportunity and they said, well, we can truly make this tie into, because this is pre-VHS explosion.
Right. Well,
And there's even an extra scene with Laurie where it's actually a really good scene. And I'm sort of sorry to see that scene now go by default because it's a pretty good scene.
Is it the one with Laurie and Linda?
No, it's the one where she's in the living room. And she's super, with Laurie, because
Because she comes over and asks for the blouse.
Yes, and then and she sits there and she sings the song "I Wish I Had You All Alone" while looking out the front door, and it's a shame to lose that scene.
Well, honestly, just as someone who never, didn't grow up with the sequels and never watched them, the idea, part of what makes the first Halloween so terrifying to me is that completely on its own terms, it's more terrifying if there's nothing motivating the murder to me. Like, it's the fact that there's a connection that comes into it later on feels a little forced. Like, it's like there had to be something motivating him.
And
I
Sean,
think that,
John Carpenter would agree with you because that's how he always intended to write the first one. And when they had him come back and write the second one, this isn't a spoiler because you'll see it.
Right.
But, I mean, he needed a reason because it takes place on the same night. Why would he still be going after Lori when there's so many other people in that town? And he said literally the brother-sister thing was something that he came up, after consuming a 12-pack of beer at 2 a.m. in the morning. That's the only thing he could come up with.
Well, I'm glad to know he's in agreement because that to me, it's kind of like not everything has to be connected. Maybe I'm just like living in a world of Marvel and Star Wars where everyone has to be related or everything has to spin off to something else. But I just liked the idea of this thing, the shape. We never understand it. We don't really know what it is. It's a man, but it's like, is it more than a man? And it just is killing people. Because why? We don't know. That, to me, was more terrifying. It's kind of like when the Hannibal series just kept going, and eventually we know everything about Hannibal and why he does what he does, and he becomes infinitely less terrifying as a result. So for me, the idea of getting rid of that whole connection works because I'm interested just to see where they take the character and what that opens the door for. I don't know what direction they would go in with a sequel, honestly.
I can also say that when you go back and you revisit these things, Halloween 2, I saw a very quick succession after the original Halloween, and it just plugs in and it's like, oh, this is the way that it is. But if you really turn a critical eye, looking at it from the perspective of the character of Loomis, the chance of him not knowing the number of siblings that Michael Myers had is about 0%.
When he knows about just about everything. He's the expert in that first film, and really through the second one, he's the expert. The one piece of missing information he doesn't have is he just, by the way, that girl that you saved earlier that night happens to be Michael Myers' sister.
Right, like somebody just lost track of Lori on that fateful night, and they were like, oh, right, kid, yeah, I don't know, give her to somebody. Right? Like, it's what?
So that's part of it, too. I think there's a little bit, to me, just the ridiculousness of what the sequel would then have to go back and be like, actually, this is what it really was about. Right. To me, I was kind of like, I don't care. I'll pretend the first one's the only one. And maybe
that being
someday.
said, though, I do think when you eventually watch it, you will enjoy Halloween 2 for what it is. Because for a long time, I used to watch them back to back because they really do feel like part 1 and part 2. Mm.
And that's what I've heard. A lot of people have told me that. They've said, like, well, don't worry about anything else, but really number 2 is worth watching because it's got that connection. It at least feels a little bit in line with the first one. So I have been interested in watching it, and that's it's great to have an excuse to finally do that.
Just from a fan perspective, I think what makes it good is that, story's pretty good in 2, but John Carpenter still wrote it and Dean Cundey still shot it. So it looks like it's a natural extension of the first one.
So I know you guys will probably, on the Filibuster episode, go into extreme detail with this series, going through every single one and all that stuff. But, John, do you remember the first time you saw Halloween? You said you watched these 2 back-to-back, Halloween 1 and 2. But, like, what were the circumstances? And what exactly captured you about the series that you became so enamored with it?
A young boy came home from trick-or-treating and turned on the television. And it was, as I remember it, it was essentially a movie marathon on Halloween night. And I was an unsupervised child watching television who later that night was afraid to go to sleep. And there you go. That's essentially it. Memory is a funny thing because I remember the television I watched both of these on for the first time. I remember seeing the TV cut scenes when I watched the original, and I know I was, I was either flipping back and forth between channels, or I turned on one after the other, or it was a movie marathon sort of thing. It's so far in the past. All I can assuredly remember. I can draw you a picture of the room I was in when I saw them both. Like, that's how much is burned into my brain, and being afraid to get off of the couch and go to bed. Like, that was the first time I encountered him. What about you, Matt?
It was the summer between 8th grade and freshman year of college when I saw it. And horror was already something I was drawn to, even though when I was growing up, horror always had the best cover boxes when you went through the sections of the video store, I thought. So, I mean, but of course, my parents wouldn't let me watch those films when I was younger. But I finally got to an age, I was 14, where I could finally start, they would be fine with letting me watch those. And by that point, I had already seen stuff like Alien and Carrie and, a couple of other things. But I hadn't really delved into slashers yet, which is what I wanted to get into. And I remember renting it from the Blockbuster. That's when they were still open. And watching it, and not only impressed by how well I thought it held up, but I really do think, and I'm trying to search back in my memory, I think Halloween was the first film that made me fall in love with and appreciate the art of filmmaking. Because when I watched that film, and of course there were other films that I knew about and researched and did all that stuff, but that was the first one that I remember consciously seeking out material on how it was made, and the process behind casting and the process behind shooting. Because I was, even as a 14-year-old, I was so taken aback with the how the film was made. It was just a wonderfully put together piece of of horror cinema for me, and I needed to know everything about it. So that during the rest of that summer and the rest of that year, I not only watched all the other films, but I got my hands onto any documentary or book or making of that I could.
That's so cool. What was amazing to me about watching it, because I saw it in college well after I think it could have had a really visceral effect on me, but aside from that, it was such an effective movie. Like, I didn't really have any context. I wasn't sure what to expect. I wasn't a big horror fan, but I was just starting off in film school, so I was starting to really explore different genres that I hadn't really looked at before. And for some reason, horror really started to kind of take hold of me, and Halloween was one of the first ones I watched. And I just remember even, like, recognizing, like, oh, it feels kind of quaint, some of this is a little silly, just how, like, effective it was, and how, like, I was genuinely terrified at points, and it didn't require much effort to be terrified. But I think a lot of times when you think about a movie from the 70s or an old slasher movie, you're kind of like, oh, okay. But it worked for me, and I really loved it. And it worked so well for me that I've been avoiding watching any of the other movies, because I didn't, like I said, I didn't want to taint that memory. But
see, it's strange how compulsions work, because I saw it and immediately the next day I wanted to go back to the store and get Halloween too.
Right. Well, part of that, I wonder if part of that was just I was maybe 20, 21 years old by that point. So I wonder if subconsciously I had started to know the pain of being hurt by bad sequels, and I was just like, I'm not going to let it happen again. I'm just going to pretend this universe that I live in, where there's only one Halloween movie and nothing else.
And that's the thing. I mean, you said you weren't necessarily a fan of horror, where, I mean, I don't know about you, John, but for me, since I am, like, it doesn't matter how many sequels there are, it doesn't matter how bad something looks, I'll still be there opening night because I have to see it.
I became a horror fan because of the Halloween movies, and as such, they remain the gold standard for me. Even when the sequels weren't particularly great, I still found myself drawn to them because it's an interesting phenomenon, and I think that horror fans, and I've said this elsewhere, but I very much stand by it, in that I think a lot of other fan bases could learn a thing or two from horror fans and Halloween fans, and because of the fact that we are all brutally honest about when a sequel misfires, but we still have such a deep love for the material that even though I will curb stomp Halloween 5 into extinction, I will still watch it again. I will still talk about the music. It's like just hanging out with, a friend's dumb relative, where it's like, you're not the guy I like, but whatever, you're blood.
No, I mean, I hear you. I've even seen Resurrection more than once. So, when we get to that show in our filibuster, you can understand why that's unusual for me.
Right. So we're gonna go ahead and take our break now. We're gonna go watch these movies. To reiterate, I'm going to be seeing the new Halloween movie. Is it David Gordon Green? That's the director.
It's David Gordon Green, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm a fan of his. I thought Pineapple Express was okay. I really liked Stronger a lot, and those are, I think, the only two movies of his I've seen. But what an interesting choice to do Halloween. And isn't Danny McBride?
Yes, he's writing.
Oh my gosh! So what an fascinating combination. But I'm gonna watch that first, and then I'm gonna go back and watch Halloween 2, and then we will reunite. And then if you so desire, you should definitely be checking out this filibuster episode where John and Matt will go in depth into their love of the series and beat by beat what they love and not so love about it. But
it depends on the movie that we're talking about that week.
Right, exactly. But I'm excited. This is great. I'm getting pumped. I'm getting all hyped for the Halloween season. So let's get to it.
Now available to own on video cassette.
And we're back. I've seen Halloween 2. I've seen Halloween 2-ish, a.k.a. Halloween 2018. And now John and Matt have seen Halloween 2018. We're all on the same page now. And I guess we could just, I'll let you guys pick. Which would you rather discuss first? Do we want to do Halloween 2 or do we want to do Halloween 2018?
I will be God's honest truth. I am so endlessly curious as to what was the whiplash effect. I personally want to find out first what your whiplash effect was, because you saw 2018 first and then you gear shifted right back to 2.
Right.
Was it as weird as I imagine it was?
It was very weird. It wasn't as weird, honestly, maybe as I thought. I think it was weirder watching Halloween 2 after Halloween 2018, specifically because I thought I was going to like Halloween 2 more. Like, I thought it was going to feel more in line with the first one than 2018. And I felt kind of the opposite. I found Halloween 2, even though it was of that era and it was made at the same time, or not at the same time, obviously, but it was made a couple years later, some semblance of a similar visual vibe and feel. I thought I was going to be more like, oh yeah, that feels more like it should, whereas 2018 feels a little bit more like an upgrade. But I felt kind of the opposite. Do we want to just start with Halloween 2018?
Sure.
Let's do that. Let's do that. I will do it in the order I watched it in. So I saw Halloween 2018. It's amazing that we have to specifically, it's like Star Trek.
We can always call it, it's David Gordon Green, so we can call it Halloween.
Halloween.
I like that. Halloween works.
Let's do Halloween.
Very clever.
Halloween. I saw it Saturday night. Great theater as far as the experience goes, but the audience was really into it. Very interactive, yelling at people and yelling at all the idiotic victims on screen.
Oh boy.
I think the audience and the theater going experience of it really made it for me. The movie itself, I liked fine. Like I had fun with it, but it felt a little bit to me as I was watching it like kind of what I was saying in the first part of this episode, where I was like, I only really need the first Halloween movie. After that, it seems like it's probably a case of diminishing returns. And in this case, there was a really cool angle of Laurie being a survivor, getting her revenge and powering up a little bit. But other than that, it felt very by the numbers to me. Not in a way that was like, oh, I'm miserable watching this, but in a way that was like, well, after all the hoopla, and you have Danny McBride, you have David Gordon Green, you have Jamie Lee Curtis coming back in this really cool angle, this feels pretty standard. So I kind of went into it expecting to kind of not be blown away, but be impressed. And I kind of walked out of it feeling like, oh, that was good. It was it was entertaining. And I don't know if I have much drive to ever see it again.
Okay. I mean, I can say that I really enjoyed it. I had a good time watching it.
I was scared about how you were going to react to this.
No,
because you two haven't heard how you guys haven't talked about it.
This is the first time John and I are actually talking about the new film.
Very
you
true,
got the
very true.
exclusive missing frames. All right.
I did really enjoy watching it. I am a fan of David Gordon Green's style. I like the way that he uses the camera. I like the way that they edited certain things together. The fact that there was, a different energy to the action scenes as there was to the dialogue scenes. I like the fact very much that this is very much when Halloween H2O 20 years later came out. This was the sort of thing I was expecting. Like I was going to come out and be like, wow, I really like that. I like the themes that they went after. I did. I really liked the themes they went after in this. And I thought it was a very rich movie to catch. Was it, I mean, the big question, and I think you, Shawn, already spoke to this, is Halloween 2 is crystallized. It's in my brain. It is as much a part of Halloween as anything else. It was always viewed as there was Halloween and Halloween 2 and then everything else. I could take or leave everything else, but 1 and 2, they were this sacred duology. And so somebody asked me at work, well, if somebody's only seen the first one, which one do you recommend they see? And I have trouble with that, but I recognize that part of the issue is that the hollow green, as you coined it, Matt, exists in the Force Awakens space, where it's very difficult. I can understand how some longtime fans are going to rub the wrong way against the new Halloween because it strips away so many things that we've accepted as part of the lore, but I thought that it freed the story up and made it very much worth watching.
Well, doesn't it say something to the quality of the new Halloween movie, John, that you and I have, as much as we love and have Halloween 2 from 1981 ingrained in us, that we have difficulty answering which path to go with? Because if this movie sucked, we would just say, oh yeah, watch Halloween 2.
Right.
But the fact that we have trouble with this is, I think, is speaking to this movie's strengths.
Now there are 2 Halloween 2s to watch.
Yes.
What do you do? Halloween
has been remade by Rob Zombie, and that went wrong. Halloween 2 has been remade by David Gordon Green, and thank you, sir. That's a good one.
I mean, like I said, John and I haven't even recorded our own episode on the new movie yet because I've been so sick. But you can believe, because I was sick, not dying, I went to the theater anyway.
I was shocked. I was shocked when there was some concern that you might not make it out for the Thursday screening.
Guys, I have to tell you, this has been like the worst sickness that I've ever
if it kept you from seeing Halloween, I believe you.
Yeah. I mean, my body hurt, fever, mouth was full of sores. I couldn't talk or eat.
That was before Michael Myers got to you.
Yeah. No, but I'm just saying, like, I saw it under the most miserable of circumstances. So I really want to see it again, not because I hated it, but because it's like how much joy can you express when you're like, oh, this was a really great movie, but I feel like absolute death. So I can't.
But overall, did you enjoy it?
Yes, I did.
Did it live up to lofty expectations? Like, did you just enjoy it, or is it like, yes, I embrace this movie?
I embrace the movie, and here's the thing, and Shawn, you like the first Halloween, John, but for me and John, it's like a staple. I mean, for me, it's a sacred movie. So I mean, I had good expectations going to this film, but I did not have the expectation that this would somehow match or be better than the first one, because that's a tall order. That's impossible, and I think it would be really unfair for to hold David Gordon Green and The Enemy Bride to that standard.
Yeah,
I just wanted a good sequel. And thankfully, what I came away with is something that, like with John, is something that does rival Halloween 2. And if you listen to our Halloween 2 podcast on retrospective, plug.
That's right. Since we recorded the first part of the episode, we said it was going to be filibuster, and now it's changed. Time has passed. Everything is different.
Yes.
It's now the new retrospective podcast.
But if you listen to our John and I's review of the original Halloween 2 from '81, we held that sequel as kind of like the standard for slasher sequels for a long time. And so the fact that this new movie, I think, is rivaling that, and that's why another reason I need to see it again, because I could see myself going both ways. I mean, like, I could still see myself enjoying Halloween 2.
Yeah,
I could also easily see myself going from Halloween to Halloween. In the future,
they're like alternate timelines, right?
Yeah.
They're still not, like, one doesn't invalidate the other. It's almost like, when Spock went back in time, this Halloween happened instead of Halloween 2, right?
Yes. And Spock accidentally changed the Halloween franchise.
There you go.
Shawn, I mean, I know you did say it was kind of by the numbers, and to a certain extent, that's true.
Yeah.
But I hate to sound like a Vietnam War veteran, but you haven't. You have not seen the crap that John and I have had to deal with
I believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy that you guys enjoyed it.
I mean,
I think
the fact that it is,
John,
I don't know if you agree with me, but the fact that where we were in terms of like Curse of Michael Myers or Halloween Resurrection or Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, the fact that this is so by the numbers and basic is an upgrade.
Well, the fact that it is consistent is what I think and Shawn, I want to get your read on this, is one of the criticisms of mine of Halloween 2 that's grown over time is that it's inconsistent. Like, the third act is great, but the first 2/3 of it, there's a lot of artifacts of the time. There's stuff that's not necessary, and it sort of plods along. And
Jamie Lee Curtis barely is in it the first 2/3.
And so I just want to get your perspective on it, Shawn. Like, do you feel the same way? Did you think that Hollow Green was more consistent from beginning to finish, whereas 2 was sort of like slow start and then great third act?
Yeah, Hollow Green actually felt very in line. Like, it felt more like a natural sequel than Halloween 2. It felt more like, oh, okay, if this is the sequel you're gonna make, it would be more like Hollow Green than Halloween 2. I agree with you, John, about David Gordon Green as a director. I think he's really solid, and I wasn't a big fan of Pineapple Express. I haven't seen his earlier stuff, but he did Stronger recently, which I thought was really
He did Stronger, and that's what inspired Jake Gyllenhaal, who's close with Jamie Lee Curtis, to call Jamie Lee Curtis and ask her to meet with him about Halloween. So I guess we have Jake Gyllenhaal to thank for her presence in Hollow Green.
He didn't get an Oscar nomination, but he did get a new Halloween movie made. But consistency, I think the technique behind the film is very strong. It's a well-shot film. It looks great. It looks elegant, which is something you probably can't say for many of the Halloween sequels. Although I'm sure some would argue Rob Zombie has a unique aesthetic.
No.
Well,
Okay, yes.
He does have a unique. I'll take that back. He does have a unique aesthetic.
He did it. Yes.
Take that for what exactly what it means. Which it could mean anything.
If you're into the unique aesthetic of meth lab white trash, then the Rob Zombie Halloween films are for you.
I'll put it this way. I had a conversation about Hollow Green with a friend, and he was actually trashing the look and the aesthetic of the movie. Which of course I did not agree with at all, but I'll apply something here that I said to him, which is what Rob Zombie did was on purpose. So yes, I'll agree with you that it is an aesthetic, that it was intentional what he did.
But I think what you guys are saying is that the back to basics approach, after all this convoluted nonsense and all the reimagining of Rob Zombie visionary filmmaker, quote unquote. It's nice. It's refreshing to watch this new one.
I mean, you really have no idea, Shawn. I mean, I don't mean to sound like a gatekeeper, but like especially with the last movie, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 was really like a David Lynch movie on crack.
That sounds great to me.
No. But actually, the thing is, Shawn, you're talking about like the built up mythos and everything. Part of that mythos springs from Halloween 2. as somebody who saw Halloween first and then gets exposed to the sister twist in Halloween 2, how did the sister twist play for you?
Well, I mean, that was, I liked the little Easter egg in Halloween or Halloween when they're talking about, oh, wasn't that his sister? No, that's someone made that up. How that feels like kind of like crap all over the first Halloween moment for me. I was like, I said it in the first half of the episode where I was like, well, I don't want them to be connected because it's scarier for me if they're not. It's scarier if there's a just, it's completely random. And I was reading about Halloween 2 instead of watching it because I'll just admit I was extremely bored watching it. I started reading about the behind the scenes and reading about John Carpenter and the extent to which he didn't want to be involved, because I'd heard things about him not wanting to be involved.
Oh no, Halloween 2 was a work for hire.
Yeah, exactly. So and the fact that he was like, I've got to come up with something. She's a sister. It feels like that to me.
He credits that to like having 2 6-packs at 2 a.m. That's the only thing you could come up with.
Yeah. So that's watching like the twist in Halloween 2, that moment. I knew it was coming, but it did, watching it in context, I was like, this feels like such a lazy, like, I've got to come up with something. So I like that they retconned it. I like that it kind of goes back to the idea of it's a random thing and Laurie is this not connected, but he was just a random killer. And they have this really great sequence where he's just going through and just killing random people.
Oh my God. That was one of the best sequences in the movie. And I will say, John, I mean, the way that sequence is shot, it's shot a lot like Halloween 2. Like that long tracking shot with him going from house to house.
Yeah, it is. And what's very interesting is, the aforementioned friend I had the conversation with, he is, I think there are a lot of longtime fans that are going to have a hard time letting go of the sister thing, because there is, there are people who feel that it gives Myers a motivation to continue, right? They buy into that reasoning, and I can buy into that reasoning, but the thing I probably enjoyed most about Halloween is that Myers was going back to Haddonfield, just like why did he go back to Haddonfield in the first one?
Because it's home.
Right, he went back home, so he goes home again. Makes sense. He's not even thinking about going after Laurie. Laurie crosses his path. He doesn't even like bat an eye or like, shake his fist.
He's not even actively searching out Laurie at the beginning.
Right. And that's why I really like Dr. Satan, because it's a character that provides the catalyst. He's the one that's obsessed with it. He's the one that's trying to figure it out. And I actually, just as a callback to his name, I found that to be a clever, beautiful Easter egg call out to Rob Zombie, because Dr. Satan was the character in House of a Thousand Corpses at the end. And so I found Dr. Satan must have been a call out to Zombie to have the character named that. But I really liked the fact that the statement again is that, Myers is just a force of nature, and it's other people giving him sort of like direction and focus that put him on this path. I found that very interesting.
Yeah, I liked that. Well, obviously we're spoiling the movie, everybody. Sorry, but my biggest problem with Halloween is there was the Laurie angle that was really intriguing to me, and they touch on it a little bit, and then it kind of disappears to turn into a Halloween movie, which is, we need to have Michael Myers killing teenagers. We've got to have that in there. So you introduce the granddaughter, who I really liked. I thought the actress was solid, and it felt nice. I mean, it was like, this is fine, and these teenagers are little punk kids, and this is fine.
And
whatever.
I will say, at least, thank God, not nearly the most loathsome teenagers that I've seen.
They were not. At the very least, they were bearable.
John, these are better than the people in 5.
Oh, sure. No, by a stretch.
The element of humor, and they're like, okay, yes, they're fun, and we know they're going to get killed. But the whole middle portion of the movie, for me, felt kind of like I said, by the number. I guess I just don't get the appeal of Michael Myers past the first movie, which is like in the first movie, it's scary, it's creepy, he kills people. I get it. And then when you do it again, it's like he's scary, he's creepy, he kills people.
See,
I
but
already got it.
again, I think this is where being a fan of the series ends up paying off. Like if you've watched all the films like John and I have,
Right.
You haven't seen Michael Myers do this kind of thing for a long time. It's gone so over the top. It's gone so calculated. For me, it was so exciting to see Michael Myers just be scary again.
Well,
yeah,
because
and that's true, but also at the same time, I haven't seen any of the sequels, so it should feel fresh to me, and it doesn't. And part of the reason it doesn't is personally, I don't see the appeal beyond a first movie. The first movie gives me everything I need to know about that character, and I'm good. And it's the tough thing about slasher movies and about horror movies. Nightmare on Elm Street is an exception strictly not because the sequels are great by any means, but because they have the angle of dreams, and you get to play with that a lot. So even the terrible ones have this really kooky character in the middle of these kind of really surrealist dreamscapes. So it's hard for me because Michael Myers' effectiveness doesn't extend beyond the fact that it's like he's creepy and he stabs people and he beats people to death. And then after that, I'm kind of like, okay, everyone's gonna die pretty much the exact same way. Go ahead.
No, I'm like where I weigh in. It's not even having to do so much with being a longtime fan, but it has to do with one of the things I really enjoy about Halloween is the fact that it treats Myers as that force of nature. Like one of the things that's always been psychologically appealing about horror movies is the well done ones is the killer, is sort of a substitute for death. That's why the killer never has to run. That's why the killer never has to work that hard to get you, is because no matter how hard you work, death is going to get you, right? Now, The first Halloween, it's this off-putting thing. There's a psychopath. I mean, the movie springs up at a time when the idea of a serial killer and profiler and those sorts of things are just really coming to the forefront culturally. And with this one, I like the fact that the shape is about it. It's not about the killer per se. It's about the fact that he represents this thing that everybody's been trying to deal with. He's a psychological pressure that's been there. And as he goes through, there's the kids who don't want to acknowledge him. There's the people that have been affected by him. How prepared you need to be, how far is it off the deep end, and that sort of thing. That's what I really responded to about this Halloween, is the fact that Myers once again takes on the persona of that, unspeakable terror that exists that we're all dealing with, and how we all deal with that realization that it's all coming for us.
Right. And I like that idea. That was the idea I wanted to see explored more. That's why I was, I think, a little disappointed, because I wanted more with Laurie, and they have some good scenes with her, but there were a couple things I couldn't buy into, and I didn't think about it until I watched the movie, and I was like, that it's just too much of a stretch for me. The thought of her for 40 years, like basically holding herself up and disconnecting herself from her family and things like that. It's like, I get the angle of trauma, but 40 years is a long time. And I would buy it more if it was a trauma that affected her psychologically, and if they had brought it up in the movie, like maybe it's been 40 years, she's been affected by it, she's been slowly in the background building up stuff, but she wasn't as crazy. But as things get closer to the anniversary, as they're about to move him, then it starts to build up and things like that. I get that they needed her to be training, but it felt like they forfeited some of what you're talking about, John, to get in the more generic stuff, which is that we need to have Michael Myers go around and kill people.
But see, I where I disagree with that is somebody else raised the point about, Laurie's just going to sit there for 40 years and hide out. And what I can tell you is that I first encountered Michael Myers as a film character, not as anything that happened to me, but as a film character decades ago. And I can tell you that I have psychological trauma from it, so I can totally buy into the fact that Laurie is like, no, like.
But you're not as strange. You haven't cut off your family or your friends.
but-
I mean,
but-
you verbally abuse me regularly, and sometimes you
No,
physically
But
I
there's-
do not.
but-
I treat you like a prince.
But the thing is that for me, at least in my opinion, there's no one way or one right way to manifest trauma and what the effects of trauma on a person. So, I mean, what seems unreasonable to some, that's how Laurie dealt with her trauma. And the reason I buy into it is because, and it's something that I want to highlight specifically as a shining quality of this new Halloween, is just how amazing and how 100% Jamie Lee Curtis is in this role. I mean,
she's very good in the movie. The performances are very good. That was tough for me from a storytelling angle. It was I wanted to spend more time with that and talk about that rather than watch Michael Myers kill teenagers.
No, but granted, but be that as it may, one of the things that at least John and I were speculating and hoping for with this new Halloween is, given the fact that there was no obligation on the part of Jamie Lee Curtis to come back, and from what I understood, she only came back and got paid scale. So I was hoping that the fact that she chose to come back and took very little money out of the project meant that she was fully committed and into it. And I was very happy to see that pay off on screen. I'm so glad that I got this version of Laurie Strode. John, what do you think about that?
Well, I think that, when the podcasters interview her, and podcasting, a fine profession, I might add.
Not all of us are hacks like those two.
But I like the fact that they do address it, where it's not that she had her family and then ran away, or she couldn't have, like, she tried twice to be married. She tried to have a normal life, and it just didn't work for her, and that's why she goes off and she's hiding out there. And I think that Curtis inhabits the role completely, and I buy this much more than the wilting alcoholic Lily that she was for the majority of Halloween H2O. And the thing is, that was always one of the things that I thought was going to be very interesting, is that Halloween H2O and this become snapshots, in a sense, of how at least these filmmakers interpret the cultural the cultural read of how we process trauma like this, right? We have a snapshot from 20 years ago of how we would have expected Laurie to be affected by this. Now we have one 40 years later, or 20 years after that, blah blah blah. And so I think that is an interesting comparison point on that. And in terms of any sort of shortcomings in terms of that, Shawn, I completely acknowledge I would have liked more time with these characters overall. I was actually shocked at the running time. I wanted another 10 minutes of this. I wanted more time with them. And there was even there's a bit of dialogue explaining one of the characters' relation to the story that I think with a little, just an extra pass at the script, they would have said, oh, wait, no, that doesn't make sense with the end of the first one. We need to add in another line here. But, overall, I think that this is, it's so difficult because Halloween 2 is the same night. It's designed to act as if it's the same night. It's all one night, whereas this is separated in such a way and that it can't operate like that, of course. Yeah. But I think almost just on an emotional level, that's going to be the hardest thing for me to let go of about Halloween 2, is it was always so, and Matt, you spoke to this when we talked about it, it's so hard to let go of that beauty of it's all one story, like it's actually one right after another. It's hard to let go of that. And I think with the exception of the fact that there's absolutely no way that there's no way that this movie can exist in a place where the end of Halloween 2 happens. That's really the only reason you have to get rid of Halloween 2 from this canon. And it's I'm
sorry to interrupt. It's interesting that because Halloween 2, like you said, it takes place immediately after, which didn't work for me necessarily. And then Halloween 2018 takes place 40 years after, which also didn't work for me just because it feels like so much time, and I was hoping it would feel a little bit more like a natural sequel, but I think the amount of time between them and the fact that it kind of just ends up being a remake of the first Halloween threw me off. I was like, I wanted you to take the story forward, but it's not really. As far as how did you guys the movie tonally feels really off to me as well. Like there's some really funny moments, but then there are some random like improv-y jokey moments, and I'm a fan of humor in my movies. I love me some Marvel films, and I've always defended those movies about that. But in this movie, I did not understand a lot of the humor, like the cops in the car with their brownies being like,
see, that's a reference. That's a reference to part 5.
okay, so it's a reference, but it's like in terms of the story, I didn't understand like the humor of it and him being like, oh yeah, my brand. What I was thinking, I was like, this is a way for the filmmakers to try to endear us to these characters so that when they inevitably get killed, we have some semblance of pity for them, I guess. But it didn't work for me because the humor felt so zany at times.
Yeah,
it kind of clashed with the horror. Like once the brutal kills came in, it's like this. I don't know if I'm supposed to be laughing or upset. Like the kid who I thought was hysterical.
I thought the kid was great.
Yeah, in the bedroom. But when Michael Myers pops out, it's an effective moment. But she's getting brutally murdered, and this kid's like, "Oh, I gotta go!" And it's like, what am I supposed to be feeling right now?
I will agree with you very much about I know it's a call out to 5, but that scene with the cops in the car, a lot of the humor in this feels misplaced at points, and as somewhat endearing that the kid is talking with the the babysitter and everything. There is very much a sense of, with Danny McBride, I would love to go up. I'd love to give him a hug. Thank you for helping write this nice, worthy sequel. I get it. You like marijuana. Let's branch out. Let's work on another venue for you to like enough to make jokes about it. Okay?
That's what I was thinking. I was like, it must be McBride's influence. I don't want to put him in that box, but the humor...
It felt like him, but at the same time, I maybe I'm just abused. Maybe I'm just an abused housewife when it comes to Halloween. But nothing rose to the level of Busta Rhymes tapping Michael Myers on the head and telling him to go back out to the garage and help Tyra Banks.
Yeah, no, I yes,
you know what I mean?
No, it's never campy or like painful. I think it was just the fact that it feels the movie is so utterly grounded and relatively serious.
I'm not saying
Michael Myers as a terror to be reckoned with, and then you just have these random, clearly improvised moments that are like from a completely like a Judd Apatow movie.
I mean, hear me out. I'm not saying that your guys' criticisms are illegitimate. I'm just saying that I've been so abused by this when it comes to bad humor that I was like, this is not nearly the worst, and it didn't derail the movie for me. So right. I mean, I totally get it. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying like I've seen way worse.
And there were a couple other plot points. I think the podcasters, I was like, why did they need to be there? They give him his mask. Couldn't someone else, like the professor?
Well, I mean,
I thought, well, here's
for plot reasons. They're there for exposition.
Yeah, pretty much. And I just there is a more natural way to take the podcasters out of it and have the story unfold more naturally. It felt very like you said, we are the exposition people.
Yeah, but I mean,
his mask. I thought
the way they are taken out of it, though, is one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
It is. That was very good, to be fair. But that relates to another thing that didn't really work for me, which is his doctor. And they did a twist, which I was kind of expecting and really hoping they devote more time to.
That was the one thing that did not work for me in this film, was the Dr. Sartain thing.
Right. I liked the idea of it because I love the idea of this guy is obsessed with Michael Myers and getting to know him and learning about him. And I would have liked it more if instead of the podcasters, it's just Michael Myers breaks out again. It's a little generic and you're like, oh, of course he would break out. But then you reveal later on that it's the doctor who set him free, which is the implication in the movie. But then they kill the doctor off before they can really explore that angle.
It's a real, like, that subplot is less than 5 minutes.
Yeah. So,
and I really don't get that. Like, I kept wondering, John, if they were trying to go for like, is this supposed to be like a Dr. Wynn Thorn of Cult of Thorn, like throwback-esque sort of thing, or but it just felt so perfunctory, and it did. I mean, I didn't even get the sense that, like, were they trying to imply that Sartain was the one who caused the bus crash that led
that's
Michael
what
Myers to.
I'm going to pretend yes, even if it's.
But they don't answer that.
They don't. But it's so much more interesting if they do that. Like, this guy, Michael Myers, breaks free because of the fact that he wants to, this guy wants to learn more about him.
The only thing I ended up liking about the whole thing is that, Sartain probably gets my favorite kill of the whole movie, because God, that was brutal. Like, the friends that I went with, we all squirmed, and it felt not, this is not a complaint, but it felt like that's right, gore, we need to give something to the gore fans, so let's throw that moment. That was a zombie. It was a zombie.
It was like Evil Dead or something like that.
No, that was a Rob Zombie shout out.
A Rob Zombie, okay. But I
think
John,
I think there was enough. I mean, I immediately was like, oh, the doctor must have helped him because he's the only guy that doesn't get slaughtered on the bus. And so, like, he's the only one that comes out unscathed until the kid accidentally shoots him. And, and he even says as he's driving them over, he's taking him to Laurie because he wants him to say something, and he's trying to spur some sort of reaction. So in a sense, I actually saw it as sort of a veneration of Loomis, because it shows again, like, Loomis was the only one that recognized Michael and could stand up to him and figure him out and all of that jazz, whereas Sartain can't. Sartain snaps. He breaks under the pressure of being exposed to Myers, and I don't know. Maybe I just have a soft spot for it, but I did. I enjoyed it. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was an interesting way to take things and to advance them. And I think there's probably 10 more minutes that this movie could have used to develop things, but I have a feeling we're going to get an extended cut on the Blu-ray or something like that.
I'll say it's a subplot that had potential. I mean, hearing you describe it, I would think, if there was more to that, then I think I would have understood it better. As it is, though, I mean, the twist comes out of left field if you're not looking for it,
right,
and then is over just as soon as it comes in.
Yeah,
and I don't even I've been beating up the movie a lot, but there are things I really loved about it. I thought the last 15 minutes were pretty brilliant, especially that was
one of the best third acts of any of these.
Yeah, I thought that to me was like fulfilling the promise of what I wanted the entire movie to feel like, was just the kind of the fun, they finally gotten together. I know part of it is it's the climax of the movie, so we have to save a lot of this for the end, but I wanted the whole movie to kind of have that visceral thrill, because it's full of moments you don't expect, and it's full of great teases to the original Halloween, like the moment where he looks out the window and Laurie's gone.
That was great.
Play the same chord.
Everyone in well, there wasn't too many people in my theater, but everyone, you could tell who saw the original, because everyone applauded at that moment.
Even Sarah, who I think has only seen it once, was like, "Oh, they're referencing that moment." I'm like, "Oh, they did such a good job." But I loved the little twist at the end when finally a movie that, God bless her, Judy Greer gets something to do in. Yeah, that was great, because everyone in the theater was like sitting there going like, "Oh, how are you so stupid?" She's like, "I can't do it," and he shows up and she's like,
"Gotcha."
That was great. That was great. I loved all that. I just the rest of the movie had felt that like fresh and fun. It was just too much of like people going off into dark corners stupidly on their own, and it was like, this is every other horror movie, but there are flashes of brilliance there. It's well made. It's a fun movie. Like, it's a fun movie to go out and see for Halloween. I mean, that's I think at the very least you can give it that much.
I think that's what I needed, though. I don't know how at this point the slasher movie is 40, 50 years old. I don't know. There's too many ways to reinvent it. We already did, the sequel heyday of the 80s. We already did our meta commentary on it in the 90s with Scream. Yeah. I mean, I think the only way to do to have fun at this point is to do exactly what this film did and just go back to basics. We all know the tropes. We all know that characters are going to have to do dumb things in order to get killed. But we kind of, if the filmmaking is good and the story is good, I think we can accept it. At least that's my takeaway from this. And I don't think it's any coincidence that this is the first Halloween sequel that, if not entirely fan embraced, although it is for the most part, it's the most critically embraced since the first film.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Although
something is clicking.
What's fascinating to me about it is that there is not as much, and I know I made reference to Force Awakens before, but Force Awakens, there was this outpouring of love. It was this tsunami of you better love this movie that washed over the globe. Whereas with this, there seems to be a much more muted response and acceptance that I find interesting, because like I noted on Letterboxd, its average is like 3.6, and I was like, that's a little lower than I would have expected for this, given the sort of positive responses that I've seen online and stuff like that.
I thought so, but then look at the Letterboxd averages for the other sequels. This is the highest.
Sure, but it's still something where I don't know if there is. It's almost something where you're tempted to say, oh well, there's a narrative that's being fed by some of these things, but I actually sat for a long time, and before I even gave even a hint to anybody of what I thought about it, I really chewed over this. And I, like Shawn, I can understand your sort of like your criticisms of it, but what I found it to be was to be an extremely refreshing and very original in many parts reinvention of things, like and at the same time going back to basics, and to fold it back into talking about Halloween 2. Halloween 2's greatest flaw is that it plods along, and if it doesn't have that surprise of, oh, she's his sister, you would seriously sit there until that operating room confrontation and just say to yourself, why am I watching this? This is...
That's how I felt the entire movie. And I was actually a little bummed. I was hoping I would enjoy Halloween 2 more. I did not like Halloween 2. It felt very much like a kind of like, we've got to make another one. Let's just have it. It's the same night and he just kills it felt like just there's something missing, like the spark or the novelty or the technique, John Carpenter's hand behind the camera and his interest in writing it in general. It felt like a very, very pale imitation of the first one. And a lot of it has to do John, I completely agree. I think you take out that twist, and for me, the twist doesn't work because I'm like, well, that seems forced. Like that, why does he need a connection to her at all? Laurie spends 75% of the movie asleep or in bed. There are all these like really unlikable characters, like the guy who is just making really crass comments and bangs a nurse in a hot tub. The boyfriend, the kind of love interest, who wasn't he also in the Last
Starfighter?
Yeah.
Yes.
So he's in it, and he kind of like, there's a moment where he and Laurie are like, oh, do we kind of like each other? And that's never explored.
Makes me wonder if he's wondering for failed marriages in Halloween.
Right.
Halloween never happened.
There is an alternate ending where he sits up in the ambulance at the end. So you see that he survived. And the implication...
Last Starfighter.
Last Starfighter.
Oh, he died. So okay. So literally one of the greatest moments in cinema history was him slipping on the blood. I lost it. I thought that was hysterical. I did not get that he died from that, because what a stupid death.
He shows up.
Remember, he comes back into the car and then faints. You get the impression.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he comes back.
He dies of head injury.
Okay,
yeah.
So he gets out, but then he dies in the car.
Yes, and falls in and causes the honking horn. There is a cut of Halloween 2 that I've seen.
A television cut.
Well, but the thing is, I remember specifically, it's almost like a third variation, or maybe it is in the in just the straight up TV cut, where you don't see him fall until the explosion at the end.
Oh,
and he flies back and hits his
interesting.
head. And
Yeah,
I remember seeing it, and I forget when I saw it, but I remember seeing it and saying, "Wait, what? This is a different version than I've seen before." I think it was probably a version that was so whittled down that they felt compelled even to cut out the head nurse's blood draining.
Yeah. Which is like that's a like very like, oh, that's disturbing. And this guy who is like about as like vanilla and lame and uninteresting as can be has done nothing in this entire movie except be like, hey, should we help that person? And he just is like hanging around, does nothing, sees this really creepy thing and is like, and then slips and dies. It was just so like, what am I? It felt like the encapsulation of the whole viewing experience for me, which is like, what was the point of this?
Well, and as I mentioned to Matt in our previous discussion, having been on a maternity ward, that is the world's like, where were all of the moms?
Right.
Like,
where was anyone in that hospital?
No, and they don't turn out the lights in the nursery. They keep very close eye on the kids. And kids don't sleep for like 8 hours the first night that they're born. They're like up every hour looking for food, man. Like that's how it works.
Lots of people talked about the hospital setting as like, oh yeah, it's very effective and things like that, which is to an extent it's a unique setting for sure. But like, especially John, with the stuff you're mentioning, it's completely empty hospital, weird employees to the point like you might as well have just put it in a psych ward or something.
Right.
Like these really creepy, weird people hanging around. Nobody feels like a real person. I don't know. It wasn't like scary. It wasn't stylish. It was just very bland. And I was expecting, because I wasn't bowled over by the new Halloween, to go back and watch Halloween 2 and think like, oh yeah, that feels a little bit more in line. But I watched Halloween 2 and was just like, oh God, like, I don't know. I truthfully, I kind of understand the love fans have for it in terms of it takes place right after. It feels, because it has the same director of photography, so cinematically it looks similar to the first one. But I don't know. As somebody going into it fresh without having the entire franchise in mind and just having seen all of them back to back, it felt so like to me it lacks everything that made the first one feel so special. So I don't know, is there something I'm missing about it? What about Halloween 2 really is like why you guys are willing to be like, yeah, you know what, I would put that on a pedestal with that?
I will completely cop to. I think the very opening is really good. And I think that once Laurie is awake and comes to and is involved in the story again, like it really is a case of the ending is so good that I wind up forgiving everything that came before that I might have had a problem with. And I think some of the stunt work is really good in it. And honestly, it gave me more Donald Pleasance as Sam Loomis. And I seriously, I love the Sam Loomis character.
The thing he keeps yelling at the beginning, I fired 6 shots.
I shot him 6 times.
I shot him 6 times. I shot him 6 times. And it's clearly the same dialogue looped over and over again because he says it with the same inflection every time. That was great. I love it. But what about you, Matt? What do you like? I'm
kind of in the same boat with John. I mean, I still think the fact that it does take place on the same point in night works for me, just because it's something very unique, and I can't think of too many sequels that do that. I always was it's a nice big nostalgia comfort because I grew up with that sequel. The music is still good. It's still Dean Cundy directing. The ending is the third act is so good, at least for me. That I don't know. It's a sequel that I embrace with all of its warts, but can certainly acknowledge its faults, and that's why I still say that as much as I do like that movie, I can now, the fact that I now can have this debate on whether or not Halloween 2 or Halloween is the better continuation is, I think, speaks to the strengths of the new movie and some of the weaknesses of the old one. Right. So.
Well, I mean, that's great. I'm glad to hear you both enjoyed it because I did not know. But all right, so you two feel very much like these. You could really go either Halloween 2 or Halloween and get a
Well,
satisfying
while-
version of
Yeah.
a sequel. To
You know
Halloween.
what?
While
In the future,
completely-
when I do these rewatches, like on Halloween night, I have a feeling like, if you've seen the movie Clue and it has those 3 endings and with the interstitial titles of like, here's what could have happened, but here's what really happened. Like in the future, I'll watch Halloween, the original. I'll put on Halloween 2, and then, in my mind, it'll say, but here's how it really happened. And then I'll put on Halloween. It's just one of those things where you can choose your own adventure.
I think that I will most likely when the new Halloween is released on Blu-ray, I will get it, and I will, which is a compliment in and of itself, as anybody knows. If I deign to purchase a film, especially as physical media, then that's the Kessel Junkie seal of approval there. I will probably do something where I'll watch the first one, and then I will watch the new Halloween right after. Every time I've gone back and rewatched Halloween 2, my esteem for it has lessened a bit over time, and I recognize that a lot of what powers my love for it is nostalgia sitting there.
Right.
And whereas I think what David Gordon Green pulled off was fresh and interesting and complex in a lot of ways that I think are going to pay off with future viewings.
Okay, great. So on a scale of 1 to 5 brownie eating cops, how many would you give Halloween? How many would you give Halloween 2?
Matt?
That's hard because I need to see Halloween again. From the emotions I remember from my one viewing of Halloween, I'll give it 4 out of 5.
Okay.
Which is probably what I would have given Halloween 2 in the past, to be quite honest with you. But I'm going to give both 4 out of 5, but with the caveat of I grew up with Halloween 2. So Halloween 2 is more firmly entrenched in my mind. I have a feeling that I'm going to be much like John, where you're never going to get me to say I hate Halloween 2 because I can't. But I do think that my respect for the new one is going to grow with certain viewings. So if you check back with me in about a year or so, maybe Halloween 2018 is going to be like at a 4.5 and Halloween 2 is going to still be like at a 4 or a 3.5 or something like that.
Gotcha. And John, what about you?
For this most recent rewatch for retro perspective, I wound up giving Halloween 2 3.5.
Okay.
Which is still a solid, that's a solid thing to come in on. 3.5 is a good movie.
Yeah.
But out of the gate, I gave the new Halloween 4 because while I acknowledge that there are things that could have been smoother or better or developed more, I had a good time. I found the themes fresh and interesting, and I fully expect to enjoy going for the depth of it because as much as there are those kills, I think that the themes and the performances are what's going to give it legs going on into the future.
Yeah.
Right. You guys are going to hate me. I'm going to lowball both of them, except for the fact that I think Halloween, I give it 2.5, but with the caveat of it's like bordering on 3, mostly because I'm relatively indifferent to it, but I also acknowledge that it's a fun movie. I think if you're a fan of the franchise, you're going to enjoy it. And if you're looking for just a fun horror movie to see during this time, that's the one to see, it feels like. We already talked about things that didn't work for me. I really wanted it to feel more like justified for why they would go throw all this talent at it, throw all this hoopla at it, and be like, we're doing this big thing that's a direct sequel. It felt a little like lackluster to me. But it's fine. I enjoyed myself watching it. Halloween 2, I did not enjoy watching, but it was fascinating just in terms of finally getting to see it and really experiencing it after Halloween. I'd probably give Halloween 2 maybe 1.5 stars out of 5.
Brutal.
And yeah, I know it's brutal. I honestly, I have to give it to Halloween. I think Halloween is the better Halloween 2.
And I wonder
these Halloween 2s.
I wonder if you may end up enjoying Halloween more if you ever decide to watch it again, which I'm sure, you have more of a compulsion to watch that one again over Halloween 2.
It's totally possible. It is. And
yeah,
maybe it's something if I watch all
that,
the franchise, like you're saying, I might have a greater.
But now that you know what Halloween 2018 is, in not what you expected it to be. I don't know. I think I'll have even my anticipation is I really liked it the first time. I think I'll have a better time now knowing what the story is and just going with the flow and enjoying what works. Because there's a lot to enjoy, I think, in 2018, and I don't think that gets underlined enough with some of these fan commentaries.
Yeah, I do not disagree with that. So that's great. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity to get to talk about this franchise you love, and that you gave me the opportunity to be a jerk about it. But no, this has been a lot of fun. Definitely encourage everybody to check out this new Retro Perspective podcast, which Matt and John have kicked off with a whole franchise rewatch, which is fantastic.
We still need to finish it, but I mean, now that I'm not dying anymore, that will certainly come.
Yes,
but it's great. So. I mean, I think that's awesome, and it's we're basically going to be watching movies, TV shows, going back and watching old franchises, and it's basically an excuse to watch more movies. So we can't complain about that, and we hope you'll check it out. And then, gentlemen, if people want to find you, John, where can people find you on the interwebs?
You can find me here on the network co-hosting Aggressive Negotiations, a Star Wars podcast with Matthew Rushing. And you can find me out there roaming the wilderness as Kessel Junkie, KESSELJUNKIE. I'm chairman of the Sam Loomis Memorial Fund. And you can find me out there on Twitter most days.
Matt, what about you?
You can find me at mhansen0207 HANSEN. I haven't become the head of any kind of fictional character fund, but I'm sure I'll find some calling out there. What exactly are you raising funds for, John?
For remembering him.
For art.
It's
art
money for remembering him.
Well, I mean, clearly they did, because they got a pretty damn good voice match for Donald Pleasance in the
that is very true. And I'm at Yay Shondor Man, and of course, if you like what you're listening to, please feel free to rate us on iTunes. 5 stars all the way. Just do it. You want to, and share this with your friends. Tell people about it. We really appreciate all of you for listening and for sharing and talking about it. You're fantastic. And check out the rest of the Nerd Party at thenerdparty.com. Follow us at Join Nerd Party on Twitter, and like our Facebook page. It's just the Nerd Party. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Have a happy Halloween. Whatever.